As soon as that direct deposit clears, a dangerously brief psychological window opens up. You get about 15 seconds of clarity before your mind begins plotting ways to sabotage your financial future. It is wild how quickly we start mentally spending cash before we even check the balance. Your brain immediately starts rationalizing why you deserve that tech upgrade, factoring in a week's worth of expensive dinners, or finally justifying those sneakers that have been haunting your open browser tabs for days. But what if those crucial first seconds dictated whether you remain perpetually stressed about cash or actually start accumulating massive wealth? Imagine adopting a highly specific, repeatable action every single time payday rolls around, a move that instantly places you miles ahead of the vast majority of the population. People constantly wonder why their bank accounts look so hollow by the end of the month, but mastering this initial payday window is the ultimate separator. It transforms that fleeting moment of dopamine into a lifelong foundation of actual financial power. Here is a harsh reality that most folks completely ignore. The typical earner is entirely blind to where their income actually vanishes. Sure, they know the landlord gets paid, groceries somehow appear in the fridge, and that digital streaming bill is automatically deducted. But everything outside of those basic survival costs is an absolute blur. It is like watching a nation of financial sleepwalkers drifting aimlessly through the calendar, constantly baffled as to why they are completely tapped out by the 25th of the month. Far too many people treat their hard-earned wages like a sudden lottery win, rather than the highly effective wealth-building engine it is meant to be. They ride the high of payday, burn through a massive chunk of it on impulse buys they will forget about in a week, and then spend the remaining 14 days surviving on instant noodles while frantically refreshing their banking app in sheer panic. That chaotic cycle is exactly what keeps the middle class trapped in a perpetual loop of temporary excitement and prolonged anxiety. Those who actually achieve financial independence operate on an entirely different wavelength. They rely on an unbreakable, predetermined routine that activates the exact second their money is deposited. It is not some flashy, complicated maneuver, and it certainly is not the kind of thing that goes viral online, but it is brutally effective. Once you implement this exact rhythm, you will be deeply confused as to how you ever survived the old chaotic way. The core mindset shift happens when you realize your paycheck is not just compensation for past hours worked. It is your future independence broken down into 30-day installments. Every single bill that enters your ecosystem is a literal brick that can either construct your fortress of wealth or vanish into the endless void of unconscious consumerism. The traditional backwards approach is to pay your obligations, splurge on your desires, and then cross your fingers hoping some leftover scraps can go into a savings account. Spoiler alert, there are never any scraps left. That is like trying to carry water in a colander and acting shocked when your boots get wet. The financially elite entirely reverse this sequence. They secure their own future first, give every individual dollar a strict job description, and force their capital to grind just as relentlessly as they did to acquire it. Success in this arena is not exclusively tied to a massive salary, even though a bigger shovel certainly makes digging easier. It is entirely about possessing a mechanical framework that functions perfectly regardless of your income bracket. Let us reframe the math for a second. If you bring in $60,000 annually, and you aggressively capture and invest 10% of that capital without fail, your ultimate financial posture will utterly destroy someone making $120,000 a year who blindly evaporates every cent they touch. The individual with the lower income but a ruthless system will eventually coast into a luxurious retirement, while the high-income spender will be forced to clock in at 80 years old because they failed to command the resources they held. This logic serves as the bedrock for the entire payday operating system we are exploring today. Before you can even dream of amplifying your net worth, you must diagnose exactly where your current cash flow is bleeding out. I do not mean having a rough, hazy estimate of your biggest bills. I mean maintaining a surgical, undeniable clarity on the exact destination of every single dollar. The very first phase of this system might not sound incredibly thrilling, but it is the undisputed cornerstone of any real financial strategy. You have to lock down the exact percentage of your paycheck that is being consumed by absolute survival needs. We are talking about the non-negotiables: a roof over your head, the basic groceries required to keep your body functioning, reliable transportation to get to work, keeping the lights on, and essential healthcare. Notice what is missing from that list? your top tier streaming bundle, that fancy gym you visit twice a month, and those daily lattes are not necessities. People constantly fall into the psychological trap of blending their desires with their actual needs. They convince themselves that a luxury car lease is just basic transportation, or that grabbing takeout 3 nights a week is crucial for their mental health. Here is a tough pill to swallow that most financial advisors sugarcoat. If your genuine bare-bones survival costs are eating up more than 60% of your net income, a major adjustment is mandatory. You are either living in a zip code that your current salary simply cannot support, or you are dishonestly labeling lifestyle upgrades as absolute essentials, just to avoid feeling guilty about your spending. Let us break down a very grounded practical simulation so you can see exactly how this operates in the real world. Imagine an earner who brings in $80,000 a year. After the government takes its cut, their actual take-home pay sits right around $5,000 every single month. Now, let us say their rent is $2,000, they have a $500 monthly car note, and they spend $500 keeping the fridge stocked. That equals $3,000 going strictly towards staying alive and functioning in society. In that scenario, our earner is spending exactly 60% of their net pay on absolute necessities, which is a fairly solid baseline if you are navigating a modern, moderately expensive city. But here is the fascinating psychological twist. That exact same person will likely stare at their bank app feeling completely broke because they are bleeding out the remaining 40% on microscopic untracked luxuries. They are swiping their card for subscriptions, spontaneous dinners, and rapid-fire online shopping, letting thousands of dollars vanish in tiny increments. The ultimate secret to flipping the script is confronting the brutal truth about what you actually require to live. Once you surgically separate your survival costs from your lifestyle choices, you unlock the remaining capital. That remaining slice of the pie is where real wealth generation occurs. That is your actual ammunition for breaking free from the paycheck to paycheck cycle. Before you start dreaming about massive investment portfolios, the second unskippable phase demands you fiercely protect your financial reputation by staying completely current on your debts. We are not talking about instantly liquidating your entire loan balance right now, but rather ensuring you never ever miss a minimum payment. Your credit score operates as your ultimate financial passport in today's economy. It dictates the interest you will swallow on a mortgage, shapes your auto loan terms, and heavily influences background checks. Here is the terrifying reality about how credit scoring actually functions. Going from a 99% on-time payment history down to 97% will absolutely decimate your score. In any academic setting, a 97% is a stellar A grade, but in the banking sector, it instantly red flags you as a dangerous liability. The rule is incredibly simple, but incredibly rigid. Pay the absolute minimum on the exact date it is due, every single time, without exception. It feels entirely unglamorous, but defending that score is the bedrock upon which your entire financial empire will eventually rest. With the baseline established and your credit protected, we arrive at the single most neglected safety net in personal finance, the emergency reserve. I know building a rainy day fund sounds incredibly dull, but this is the ultimate shock absorber for when the universe inevitably throws a wrench in your plans. Because trust me, things will go wrong. Your transmission will drop on the highway, your water heater will flood the basement, or you might face an unexpected medical bill. The objective here is to stockpile 3 to 6 months of your bare bones living costs in a highly accessible account. Going back to our previous breakdown, if your monthly survival number is exactly $3,000, your target shield needs to be anywhere between $9,000 and $18,000. That figure can seem completely overwhelming if you are starting from zero, but the goal is to build it incrementally. Having that cash cushion completely rewires your brain. You stop operating from a place of fear and start walking into your workplace with quiet confidence, knowing a sudden layoff will not force you out onto the streets. A massive mistake people make at this stage is trying to force their safety net to generate massive returns. They throw their emergency cash into volatile crypto markets or lock it away in restrictive bonds, completely missing the point. When a real crisis hits, they either have to sell at a brutal loss or pay severe penalties just to access their own money. Your emergency cash needs to be utterly boring and totally liquid. Park it in a standard government-insured high-yield savings account and leave it alone. Its purpose is not to make you wealthy, its purpose is to keep you out of devastating debt when disaster strikes. Once that protective barrier is fully funded, you finally graduate from mere financial survival into actual wealth generation. By the way, if you are finding this breakdown valuable, hitting that like button and subscribing to the channel helps out immensely. And I want to hear from you. What is the most ridiculous, unexpected expense that ever wiped out your savings? Drop your story in the comments below. Now we enter the offensive phase of the strategy, investing for the future, and the absolute first place you should direct your capital is toward any retirement program that offers an employer match. It is genuinely baffling how many professionals completely ignore this perk. Imagine if your manager walked up to your desk and offered to hand you a stack of cash, completely free just because you decided to save some of your own money. You would grab it immediately, right? That is exactly what an employer match is, yet billions of dollars are left unclaimed every single year. Let us look at the math. If you earn $70,000 annually and your company offers a 4% match, you contributing $2,800 over the year forces your employer to inject another $2,800 directly into your portfolio. You instantly doubled your investment on day one. There is absolutely no hedge fund, real estate deal, or magical stock pick on earth that can guarantee a 100% immediate return like that. Capturing this free capital is the most effortless financial victory you will ever achieve. Beyond grabbing that free corporate money, your broader mission is to funnel roughly 10% of your gross income into investments. If that sounds aggressive, you have to understand the terrifying cost of hesitation. Let us look at a stark reality check. If a 25-year-old starts putting away just $400 a month into the market and averages a historical 8% return, they will sit on roughly $1.4 million by the time they hit traditional retirement age. But if they wait just 10 short years and start making that exact same $400 contribution at age 35, they will end up with less than $600,000. Delaying your strategy by a single decade literally vaporizes over $800,000 in potential wealth. Time is the heavy machinery of the financial world. You do not need to be a Wall Street genius or spend sleepless nights analyzing complex earnings reports. For the vast majority of people, consistently purchasing a simple broad market index fund is more than enough to let the relentless math of compound interest build a fortune on your behalf. Once your retirement contributions are running on their own, it is time to hunt down your remaining non-mortgage debts. This is usually the part where emotions flare up, because debt constantly reminds us of past emergencies or financial missteps. When attacking these balances, you generally have two distinct pathways. You can choose the avalanche approach, targeting your most toxic, high-interest loans first, which mathematically saves you the most money. Or you can embrace the snowball strategy, knocking out the smallest balances first to build rapid psychological momentum. Honestly, managing money is often more about hacking your own brain than running perfect spreadsheets. Seeing small accounts drop to zero creates an addictive rush that keeps you in the game. Pick whichever method keeps you aggressive, but pick one, and absolutely refuse to change course until the slate is wiped clean. With your debt crumbling and your employer match secured, a whole new tier of wealth creation unlocks. This is where you can start diving into dedicated vehicles like Roth accounts. The beauty of these accounts is almost hard to believe. Every single dollar of growth is entirely shielded from taxes. You pay your tax bill up front on the initial cash you put in, but when it is time to tap into that fortune decades later, the government cannot touch a single cent of your profits. Think of it like buying a plot of land today, paying the initial tax, and then owning every single piece of fruit that grows on it forever. The exact limits on how much you can put in might shift from year to year, but the core principle is untouchable. You are trading today's taxed income for a lifetime of completely untaxed expansion. If you max those out and step into standard brokerage accounts, the rules of the game change significantly. Here, you are going to encounter capital gains taxes whenever you sell an asset for a profit, but the system heavily rewards patience. If you flip an investment in less than a year, you get slammed with standard income tax rates. But if you hold on to that asset for over 12 months, you unlock highly favorable long-term capital gains rates. This built-in reward system is exactly why the financial elite do not day trade. They are not glued to their screens, frantically swapping stocks to chase a quick buck. Instead, they buy solid assets, Sit on them patiently and let time slowly amplify their net worth while systematically paying the lowest possible legal tax rate. Now, we arrive at the ultimate glue holding this entire strategy together. This final move separates the people who daydream about getting rich from those who actually do it. You must automate the entire machine. Relying on sheer willpower is a guaranteed path to failure, because willpower is a finite resource. You might wake up on Monday ready to conquer the financial world, but by Friday afternoon, after a brutally exhausting work week, you will inevitably convince yourself to skip this month's savings transfer. Automation completely eliminates human weakness from the equation. When your cash routes itself to the right accounts instantly, your wealth grows regardless of whether you are highly motivated or completely burnt out. Your money just goes to work, silently and flawlessly. Let me walk you through exactly how I configure this robotic cash flow. The moment my earnings land in my primary checking account, I actually let them sit completely untouched for exactly 24 hours. This is not just a quirky habit. It ensures every single deposit has fully cleared the banking system, so there are absolutely zero transaction errors. Then, on day 2, the magic happens without me lifting a finger. Predetermined chunks of cash are automatically siphoned off into dedicated channels. A specific percentage drops directly into a high-yield savings vault, another slice is routed toward my investment portfolio, and if I am working as an independent contractor, a rigid portion is instantly locked away for taxes. The brilliance of this setup is the complete elimination of decision fatigue. I never have to stare at a screen and battle my inner impulses to do the responsible thing. The system simply executes the plan. However, there is a massive trap hiding inside this automated utopia that trips up incredibly smart people. They build this beautiful, self-sustaining financial machine and then completely abandon it. They score a massive promotion at work, bumping their salary significantly, but they leave their automated savings rate at the exact same dollar amount they were using 3 years ago. Or maybe they finally crush that lingering car loan, freeing up hundreds of dollars a month, but instead of rerouting that newly liberated cash into their wealth building accounts, they just let it sit there and inevitably spend it on random upgrades. They put their finances on autopilot, but completely forgot to update their destination coordinates. You have to audit your own system every time your income increases or a liability disappears, permanently ensuring your wealth generation scales up right alongside your career. Executing this payday protocol is hardly quantum physics, yet it is so devastatingly effective simply because the vast majority of society completely refuses to follow any logical structure. Stop viewing your hard-earned wages as temporary monopoly money just waiting to be traded for fleeting weekend entertainment. Start treating every single dollar as a highly trained employee whose only job is to go out and recruit more dollars. Set the boundaries, automate the pathways, and refuse to deviate from the blueprint. If you lock in this exact sequence today and let it run uninterrupted for the next 5 years, you will look back and genuinely laugh at how effortlessly your net worth exploded, while everyone else around you is still scratching their heads, wondering where all their income evaporated to. It is the ultimate financial cheat code hiding in plain sight. Mastering those chaotic first moments after your direct deposit hits is the single most powerful shift you can make for your future. It transitions you from being a passive victim of your own spending habits into a strategic architect of your wealth. By forcing your capital into a disciplined, automated framework, you completely remove the emotional friction that keeps most people broke. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe. I would love to hear your thoughts on this strategy. What is the very first automated money transfer you are going to configure on your next payday? Drop your game plan down in the comments so we can keep each other accountable. See you in the next video, and remember, stay smart with your money. Take care.